One of the most satisfying parts of my work in Ottawa has been serving on parliamentary committees. In the various committees I have served on, I have dealt one-on-one with a number of Liberal ministers. Some of them have not been too bad at their jobs. Others have been downright incompetent. But I have never before encountered a Liberal minister quite like Environment Minister Steven Guilbeault. My impressions of Guilbeault are best summed up by an analysis published by the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, a non-partisan think tank. The headline of the article says it all. Ruthless, reckless, damaging. The Honourable Steven Guilbeault is MLI's Policy Maker of the Year. Heather Exner-Perot, an expert in Arctic and Indigenous economic development, and the author of the analysis, begins by stating that, in her view, no one else in Canada has been as influential, and no one else has done so much damage. From an emissions cap to toxic plastic straws, and from clean energy regulations to the clean fuel standard, Guilbeault has been advancing economy-killing and constitution-defying laws at a frenzied pace. Exner-Perot describes Guilbeault as a caricature of the West-hating anti-oil Liberal that has confounded the aspirations of Canadians west of the Laurentian Corridor for decades. She explains how the federal Liberals, under Guilbeault's direction, have taken a pancake approach to climate policy, stacking increasingly suffocating and incompatible regulations on Canadian industry. For example, Exner-Perot notes the double whammy of the Liberals' clean fuel standard and their policy to ban gas-powered vehicles by 2035. On the one hand, the clean fuel standard dramatically increases the costs to refine oil and manufacture automobiles. On the other hand, the government is making those changes redundant by mandating electric cars. As Exner-Perot puts it, Guilbeault is asking refiners to invest in cleaner fuels while promising to ban their products before they could make their money back. The forced march to electric cars will require dramatically more capacity in the country's electric grid, up to 25% by some estimates. Yet Guilbeault has interfered with efforts to increase that capacity. As Exner-Perot says, unbothered by the laws of physics, Guilbeault went ahead and introduced draft clean electricity regulations in August. These regulations prohibit any electrical energy expansion projects that do not meet Guilbeault's green ideology. However, as Exner-Perot points out, Guilbeault has not merely damaged the most important sectors of the Canadian economy. He has also damaged the Federation. In reaction to Guilbeault's heavy-handed measures, Alberta passed the Alberta Sovereignty Act. Saskatchewan passed the Saskatchewan First Act. And Ontario, Quebec, and Saskatchewan have all invoked the Notwithstanding Clause in response to one or another of his measures. Furthermore, two of Guilbeault's laws have been struck down by Canadian courts as unconstitutional. Bill C-69, often called the No More Pipelines Act, and the federal government's labeling of all plastic manufactured items as toxic. But still, Guilbeault presses on. As Exner-Perot puts it, it appears that, in Guilbeault's view, federalism is an inconvenient and unacceptable barrier to accomplishing meaningful progress on climate change. For an ideologue like Guilbeault, the Constitution was not designed for, and is not up to the task of, addressing the existential threat posed by fossil fuels. But it is not just Canadians that have suffered from the Liberals' overzealous energy policies. Our allies have suffered too. Germany, Japan, Korea, and others have come asking for more energy exports, only to be turned away. Yet for all the gloom cast by her analysis, Exner-Perot ends on a hopeful note. She states, in no uncertain terms, that Guilbeault has treated the fact that Canada is a democracy, a market economy, and a federation as inconveniences to be overcome. And yet that is the very reason why, in a democracy, he will fail. Guilbeault has already succeeded in alienating the provinces and even some members of his own caucus. But now, as Exner-Perot notes, he is alienating voters who are concerned more about affordability and housing. There will likely be a backlash. And that is where you come in. Whether you live in Outlook or Oshawa, Regina or Rimouski, your quality of life has been damaged by this one man who has been given near dictatorial powers by the Trudeau Liberal government. A Conservative Party government led by Pierre Poilievre will bring home common sense for all Canadians and put an end to this insanity.